Welcome to the Love and Victory Show with Val, the place to laugh, sip on a little wine, and have open and honest conversation. Here you will find the tools to resolve real life issues. Unwind, pour up a glass, and get ready to exhale. Welcome to the Love and Victory Show with Val podcast, and we're walking on eggshells with Abby. Hello, Abby. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am ready to walk on eggshells.
I'm ready to walk on eggshells with you.
Now, I don't know how those eggshells are going to turn out. It's not going to be what you think it is. It's not going to be what you think it is. Because I think we have to stop walking on eggshells.
Agreed.
And we'll tell you why. Okay, how do you think and how do you feel about the cancel culture?
So, with cancel culture, the young, woke side of me is like, yeah, we should definitely hold people accountable and, for their actions, especially if they have some sort of platform or there's people that look up to them and stuff like that. But at the same time, when we're canceling people who haven't done anything wrong recently, and you're kind of bringing up all this past stuff, I just feel like it's not sending the right message.
Well, let's talk about what cancel culture is.
Okay.
And where did it come and how did it start? Because if I go back in my day, there was no such thing as cancel culture.
Yeah.
Of course, there was no internet really either. So let's talk about, for your generation, because it's all in the last couple of years, it's become this big thing, right?
Right, yeah.
So what is cancel culture?
So cancel culture it is basically the idea of, I like to kind of phrase it as like you're finding a common enemy in terms of like the public eye, right? There's so much debate pretty much since like 2016 elections, like of what's right and what's wrong and this kind of black and white thinking. And I think people kind of like to have a common enemy. So they'll be like, okay, well, so-and-so said something, said the N-word 20 years ago. So they can't have a platform anymore.
Well, I think let's just go back to word out, and I love the fact that you said it really kind of came up in the 2016 election. You guys don't really hear me talk much about politics, but I have my own view. I'm glad you brought up the 2016 election. I don't talk much about politics because I think sometimes we can get so caught up on politics that we can't even have a conversation. But that election time was so toxic. It was everybody going to their corners. We stopped talking to one another. And I think it really started to change the framework. And it really got to show who some people really are, the ugly side. But I think it also did something else. It also made us start to look at who we are.
Yeah.
You understand?
And I think it's definitely people cancel other people because they see something they don't like about themselves.
It really does start. Now, there are some people out there that have done some things in the past that I think really need to be checked. But I think you can't hold people accountable for something that happened 20 years ago. Now, if they're still doing that, they're still making comments, they're still showing racist, having racist views, or just being misogynistic.
Yeah.
Then and it's still going on today. Of course, there should be action to it. So let's talk on that line.
Yeah, totally. And I definitely think there's a line, right? Like, and it also you need to take into consideration times changing too. Not to get into politics, but even politicians, a lot of these people have been around since like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s where times were different. So,
and I think some of them need to go.
For sure.
And totally. I'm going to look at the camera and say that. If you've been in politics doing the same thing for 40 years, times have changed and you still want to do it the way you've been doing it for 40 years, it's time for you to move over and allow some of the young blood to come in and pour into. Now, I do think that young blood needs to take some learning and training from some of the old people. So older people, you have to respect.
Right.
You have to learn. But I do think it's time for us to let the younger people in.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's created a lot of like divide too, like even in like online culture, right? Like regardless of where you stand politically, it's been watered down to where it's not even political anymore.
Right.
It's like a personality trait. Like you're either woke or you're not.
Okay.
And people are getting canceled for simply it's not even like, obviously there's some people who I personally believe deserve to be canceled or have their platform taken away because they're spreading harmful messages. But a lot of this cancel culture is like canceling someone just because they just disagree with you about something.
Well, I totally disagree with anyone canceling someone because I have a different view. I have a different view. Do I deserve to be canceled? Absolutely not. But if I'm on here on any platform and I'm spewing hate and I'm causing division and I'm bringing up stuff that I know is harmful to someone with the intent of being harmful, of course, I think, is that a part of cancel culture?
Yeah.
I think by all means one should speak up on that.
Totally.
But if I made a mistake, I'm not going to even say a mistake. If I made a statement 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when I didn't know and I was not growing.
And you didn't know even where you would be.
And I didn't even know where I would be. Now, do you think it's right to hold that over my head?
I think it's definitely appropriate to bring it up. You know what I mean? Especially if what you're saying now is against that. Like, let's say, you know, you made a very public claim about like a certain issue, and then 20 years later you completely change your mind.
Let's just go there. I may have had a view about homosexuality 20 years ago, and now my view may have changed. I think it's worth having a conversation about that.
Yeah.
So maybe I can help someone with why and how my views evolved.
Exactly.
You understand?
And you've been on both sides of that argument, so you know what that person's feeling, so that would actually be a productive conversation.
Right. But if I'm 20 years ago talking and have that stance that, oh, that's bad, oh, that's bad, oh, that's bad, oh, that's bad, and I'm saying things that's hurting someone and I'm tearing them down still today, I do believe that I think it needs to come
even
down,
if you're better
as a
at
human being.
Even if you're better at hiding it, which I think a lot of people are doing now too. They still have those same values, those same beliefs that they did 20, 30 years ago, but they just don't talk about it now.
Well, I think that's I don't necessarily think that they're good at hiding it. I think that because of the level that they've gotten to, people are afraid of calling them out on it.
Yeah, that too.
Because who you are is who you are, and that's going to come through every day of the week. So if someone asks me, well, Ms. Carter, what's your view on racial dating, biracial,
interracial dating.
Interracial dating. I can't believe I couldn't get it out. And then my view is different than what it was before. I don't feel bad about that because I've evolved. But if I'm going to get on here and I'm going to go, oh my God, I think that's the worst thing ever, hold me accountable.
Exactly.
But allow me to have a conversation about it first.
Yeah, and I think that's what's lacking a lot in today's cancel culture and just kind of the internet, online culture in general, is like not a lot of grace or patience, I think, is given.
That's a good word, no grace.
Exactly. Unless someone that has like a high status or something. Because I can't tell you how many times Kim Kardashian's been canceled for something. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here in front, I like Kim Kardashian, you know what I mean? But because of who she is and the status she holds, she can almost do no wrong.
Well, I think that that's where the problem comes in at. So we give a pass on famous people.
People we like.
That we like based off of our personality, and then the people that we don't like, we say they need to be canceled. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Are we getting that small?
It's not the same across the board, and I think that's where this like performative activism comes up, this conversation of performative activism where people, they pretend to really, really care about an issue, and they like, you know, are attacking people online because, you know, to support this issue, to kind of put up this front, but then they're not actually really, it's not with the right intentions, I should say.
And that goes back to what I was saying.
Yeah. If
If you really care and you're passionate about something, you're not just doing it, online to tear someone down. I think what you should do is come out and really have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Because if you really have the knowledge of why it's harmful, then why not talk about it?
Why not speak up about it?
Why not? And I think that's where we spend a lot of times drowning people out and really shutting down. We don't want to talk. My view is my view, and that's the only view that should matter.
Yeah, and people aren't, and like that, what you were saying earlier, like how if you made, you know, how you felt a certain way about homosexuality 20 years ago and it's completely different now, I mean, do people want to be the same? You know what I mean? Why would you want to have the same views and opinions that you did 20 years ago?
Well, I think, first of all, you know, who am I to judge? I can't judge anyone on where they are in life. All I can say, if I've evolved, you can evolve, but it starts with having a conversation.
Yeah, and everyone has a different starting point too. So
yes.
where you started out might be completely different from where I start out, or where somebody else starts out in that journey of growth too.
I 100%. Do you think people in general like to have common enemies?
Yes,
Wow.
I do. I definitely think people want to have a scapegoat. And Erin, actually, we work with Erin, me and her kind of talked about this one time, kind of like the difference between right and wrong. And I personally don't believe in a cold, hard right and wrong. I think there's lots of room for nuance. And I think when you have this belief where things are 100% right or 100% wrong, you're not taking into consideration your own. Because you don't think your own, you don't think yourself is 100% wrong or 100% right.
Well, here it is. When you take everything in that way, it's about you.
Yeah.
You're only hearing your views. You're only going by your thoughts. So therefore, there is no growth.
Yeah.
There is no possibility of change because you're only thinking about your views.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you see something in someone, I think I mentioned this earlier, that you don't like about yourself. Or you may see someone.
It's literally how you see yourself.
Yeah, you may see someone, there might be someone who's struggling with their own homophobia and they know that they're a little homophobic.
Oh,
and so
wow.
they might dig up dirt on you and be like, well, Val said this 20 years ago.
Wow.
Instead of looking in the mirror
Wow.
and being like, well, maybe I have my own issues I need to address.
That I haven't dealt with.
Yeah, but
And
it's
so
easier to point the finger.
I like that. When is it okay to separate art from the artist?
You know, that's a tough one for me
Yeah.
because I enjoy music. I really, really do. And
now you can sing too. Huh? Wish we can get her to sing on here, but anyway.
One of these
I don't
days.
need to get copyrighted.
And I love music and so sometimes it's hard when you find out an artist that you really like or really support has done something problematic. And indirectly, you're directly supporting them by streaming their music.
You are.
And so there's really no way around it. And I think if you claim to be an activist and you say you want to stand up for, any certain issue, then it's important to not listen to that artist anymore. I'm guilty of it. I do it. But
exactly. Even if it's someone that you absolutely love. So is it okay to say, but I got to give him a pass because I enjoy his music or her music?
Yeah.
No.
You really
it's not
shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what that's saying for someone that you really don't care about, let's cancel them.
Exactly. It's easy when you don't care about their music.
Yeah, it's easy. Well, how can someone recover from being publicly canceled?
This one's a tough one. And I think this is a very nuanced issue too. I think it depends on what crime was committed, right? Like Harvey Weinstein.
Yes.
There's no recovering from that.
He doesn't deserve to be recovered.
And, there's certain things, like when you commit a crime, especially a sexual crime, especially against children, I don't believe there's any room for recovery there. But when it comes to, like, kind of the more social issues and stuff like that, it really depends. Who did you harm?
Well, let's go back to someone that has caused a crime to a child or have caused a crime to someone older. Just because you have money and you can buy yourself out of this, or you can get a publicist out there to change your image, and a lot of those people bounce back. Is it right?
No, it's not right.
But it goes back to us as the consumers. We
are the media. We are.
Yes.
We have control, and I think people don't realize that they have control over what's put out there.
I think that people don't realize that they have control over that because it's easier to stay in the closet until it's a bandwagon of people already out there bashing.
Exactly.
So you just kind of get mixed in and you just kind of jump on the bandwagon.
You know what that reminds me of? Have you ever seen Hamilton the musical?
Yes.
It reminds me of Aaron Burr.
Yes.
And how he always says, it's funny, I learned about that in school before I even saw the musical. And my teacher even said he didn't ever have an opinion on anything. He just did the bandwagon, just kind of riding the waves and stuff like that.
Right.
You never went anywhere.
Yes.
You never go anywhere unless you make strides, which you can get canceled doing that because you're going to piss somebody off.
One of the things that I love, and it's funny you brought that up, I actually went to the Hamilton musical. And I was on one of my trips, many trips to Arkansas, and it was playing there, and it was so happened to be playing right next door to the hotel where I was staying at, and so I got tickets. It was amazing.
It's a wonderful musical.
It was an amazing musical, and it was probably one of the first musicals I ever went to.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I never thought that I would enjoy a musical, but I learned so much in that. But I like the fact that he stepped out of his comfort zone. You understand?
Yeah.
And then he actually made a difference by stepping out of his comfort zone, not having people, a bunch of followers. He just figured out a way to say it was wrong.
Yeah, he knew what he believed, and and he stepped on some toes.
Yes.
You know, there are people that didn't like him, and I feel like people are scared of that. They're scared of they're walking on eggshells, and they're scared of getting canceled because they are too scared to do the right thing.
But do you think that people are walking on eggshells because they're afraid of getting canceled, or they're afraid of standing alone?
Both.
Because to stand alone shows strength.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's scary to be, you know, the kind of forefront of like a movement or an idea or maybe a controversial kind of thing. I find myself even kind of holding myself back in like saying my opinions in certain situations and stuff like that.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Why do you think that that's more of a woman's thing, or do you think it's just
I think it is a woman thing. I think I want to be polite. I don't want to make people uncomfortable, and I don't want to have conversations that make people uncomfortable.
And you don't want to look like you're just out there causing them.
Yeah, I don't want to, you know, how that kind of women should be seen and not heard, or speak when spoken to kind of thing. I
don't think I ever got that memo. I'm gonna have to ask Brother Carter about that. You don't know, but
I'm very outspoken, but I do find that sometimes I fall into that a little bit.
No, I'm giving you a hard time, but I totally understand what you said. And for me, it came as I evolved, and it will come with you in time as you get to know yourself and appreciate yourself. You understand? So you'll find your voice, and I think you're finding it.
I think I am too. I definitely feel more confident in like personal settings.
Yes.
I'm definitely working on kind of putting myself out there more online and kind of being more forefront about my opinions. But I think part of me is kind of walking like scared to like I don't want to make riffs.
But I do think that one of the things with your generation, I know we're kind of all over the page with this conversation, walking on eggshells, but it all lines up. I think you gotta be really smart. I think your generation needs to be a little more wiser about what they're putting themselves out and how they're putting themselves out, instead of just jumping out there right away and haven't really thought it through. Because when you just go and put something out there and your thought process is not really in that, you can end up over here, what we're talking about right now, in that council.
Yeah, it's a very fine line, and I don't think anybody really knows where that line is, and it's all about kind of skating that line and hopefully it comes out with good results.
And I think also you have to also be okay with yourself. If this is how you really, really feel, make sure that this is how you feel when you start talking about something.
Yeah, and be confident about it.
Yes, and for me, this council culture, for myself, I'm learning about it. You know, I'm learning. I don't have a full grasp on it. What I have a grasp on is you have to have a conversation. I can't say that I don't believe in something when I haven't even had a conversation to understand the other sides of you.
Right, yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
Someone that's out there just trolling, or someone that's out there just trying to get this thing
that all publicity is good publicity kind of thing.
It's not, because you're hurting someone.
Yeah.
And so I think with this council culture, we really need to make sure that when we're going out there trying to counsel people, saying that they need to go, did they do it from a mean place? Or is that how they felt at the time based off of the information that they had at the time?
Exactly.
Is that?
Yeah, and I definitely think people are a product of their environment. So
oh my God.
I am very big on perspective. And so like before I say, oh well you should believe this, it's like, well, where are they from?
Yeah.
Like what's their age, what's their like religion, what are their beliefs? Because all of that plays a role into every piece of who you are.
Yeah,
and if I sit there and I judge you because from my experience, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't say that, I mean, you're not me.
Well, if we think about it, what have I been exposed to? I am what I've been exposed to.
Exactly.
So if that's all I've been around is someone just firing off negative things about the culture that I really don't know and they really don't know, but that's all I've ever heard,
of course you're going to fall into
I'm
that.
going to fall right into it.
Yeah.
It's not until I've had the opportunity to expose myself to something different, then now I have a different view.
And I think that's a lot of what people want in terms of like how to recover from like a cancellation, is like to say like, you know, this is what I've been exposed to, this is my experience, but now after being told, hey, this is wrong, now I can go and learn the lesson and go expose myself to better myself. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, but you can't go and expect that you're just going to come back from this, I got called out on it, and now I'm going to get me a good publicist. I'm going to start doing this campaign of going to charities and doing all of this good things for show. No, I need to see that there's really a change there.
Yeah, in character and behavior and stuff like that.
Would you agree?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay. Is it easier to hold other people accountable rather than ourselves?
Yes, I think it totally is. I'm incredibly guilty of this. I try to tell myself not to get defensive sometimes. I have to literally verbally tell myself that, like, if I have someone, whether it just be like a relationship or like at work or something, coming to me telling me like, oh, this is wrong or this is bad or not what I wanted or something like that, I have to literally tell myself like, it's fine, you know, don't beat yourself up over it. But I'm so quick to call other people out.
Well, I think it's easier, and I'm going to really look forward. It's easier for us to see ourselves as a perfect person and then hold people to a whole different standard. But if we start looking at ourselves and really being honest with ourselves and giving grace to ourselves, then it's easier for us to give grace to others.
Oh, totally.
Because everything that we do is truly a representation of how we feel about ourselves. Everything. That's just my opinion, and I don't think until we change that, we're not going to get a different result as a society overall. That's my honest.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important, along with self-care, is being critical of yourself and being able to recognize your own shortcomings. And without being this person of always looking at, oh, I'm not this, I'm not measuring up. Not beating yourself up.
Yes, it's something wrong with me. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I am saying is, you know, in those quiet moments that you were wrong when you made that statement. You know that when you talked to that young lady or that young man the way you did was wrong. Call your own self out. Hold yourself accountable.
And like, something that I try to do too is, if I recognize that maybe I like piss somebody off or rub them the wrong way, I try to address it before they come to me and say, you said XYZ, which bothered me. I try to like recognize it, read the body language, and be like, hey, I'm sorry if that bothered you. Like, I totally didn't mean it that way.
Because you know.
Yeah.
You literally know when you have done something that made that other person feel bad or feel small. Now, it doesn't mean that you didn't need to address something.
Yeah.
But there was a true reaction from that person. And you have to find, I think you have to find some type of strength within yourself to go back and own it.
Yeah.
You can own it by saying, yes, I was wrong in my delivery, but I meant what I said.
And I think a lot of people are scared to admit that they're wrong in any sense.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm guilty of that too. Like, I'll point the finger all day in an argument.
I don't see that.
It's more my personal life.
Okay.
Yeah, more my personal life.
Okay.
I'll point the finger rather than like being like, oh yeah, maybe I did do something wrong.
Well, is that you are spoiled?
Maybe. I think I'm an only child, and my mom hyped me up a lot when I was younger. So I was always told, oh, you're doing great, you're so smart, you're so this, you're so this.
You're so beautiful, you're this.
So I think I have a little bit of a complex in my mind where I think I'm smarter than
that
people.
was really good. Okay, as only children and babies, where the baby did no wrong. I'm sure my sister would agree with that. Carolyn, if you're listening, I still do no wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough being perfect.
It's tough being perfect. How can someone recover from being publicly humiliated?
being publicly humiliated. Now that I think is tricky because you can kind of go one of two directions, right? You can kind of hide away and just kind of let it beat you down. Or what I think a lot of people try to do now is this whole meme culture. If you've been publicly humiliated or embarrassed in any way, like own it. Like just really lean into it.
I was getting ready to say that's exactly, if I know that I didn't do something intentionally wrong, yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, I feel like crap. I feel bad that people took it that way. I feel bad that people can be that mean to me as a human being. But I'm just not going to let you destroy me. You don't have that kind of power. So I'm going to lean into it.
Yeah.
I am going to own it. I will publicly apologize, but I am not going to let you tear this thing down. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, and that goes back to holding yourself accountable, right? Being like, this is what I did wrong. This is how I was humiliated, maybe because
maybe I said something because I was uneducated about what I was talking about.
Exactly.
And that part I have to own. I was wrong.
It hurts the pride, but in the end of the day, people are going to take you serious because no one wants to hear excuses.
Right.
Think about it in your own life. Like when someone's telling you excuse about something, they say they cancel plans on you.
Oh my God.
You don't really care about the excuse. You just care that your plans are canceled.
Well, and again, just own it. One of the most draining things for me is listening to someone with a million excuses. Just own it. So, we had a quick little conversation about cancel culture.
Yes, we did. Yes,
we just need to start having a conversation. And I don't think that we have to hold someone accountable for something that happened 20 years ago. Let's think about what they're doing now. If they're still spewing out, they're still being ugly. Now, don't get me wrong, we can't just go brush it under the rug. If it's something out there and they're a big-time public figure, if they're a major company, major brand, and you find that they've done things, and let's hold them accountable. Let's bring them to the table. Let's have a conversation with them.
I agree.
That's my thought. Let's have a conversation. If they're unwilling to have a conversation, they're unwilling to change, they're unwilling to acknowledge what they did, then by all means, do what you have to do. Cancel culture.
Cancel culture.
Okay, walking on eggshells. I'm sorry. We can't do it. We didn't walk on too many eggshells. We just put it out there. Thanks again for the Love and Victory Show with Val. Just being a part of it.
I want to leave with, just really try to understand where your values come from and let your actions reflect your values. As long as you know you're doing the right thing and you're doing what's important to you, you really can't be canceled.
Oh my God. I think that's probably the most powerful thing we've said today.
Thank you.
I absolutely love it. Thank you. And again, I always love when I can sit down and have conversation with Abigail. She's such a wise young lady. Again, until next time. And this is actually our coordinator for the radio and podcast. Isn't she amazing? She spends a lot of time behind the scenes, but I love bringing her out front. Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you, Miss Carter.
Bye.
Bye.